What if your area stinks for fix and flips? Sometimes I get new investors who come to me and say, everything you teach is great, but that's not gonna work in my area. Most of the time I find that simply is not true. Now, there are some areas that may not be that great, like if it's rural, or if there's a ton of crime in the area, or if the values of all the properties are just so low, it's kind of in a war zone. Well, if you can't get that type of ROI, what do you do? And how do you get fix and flipping if you're in or around an area like this? First off, we've got to talk about this. I find that most people say it's not going to work in my area because they have not given it the time and the attention that's necessary. I think that anyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but most people somewhere within an hour drive of where they live can find an area that's going to be a great area to do fix and flips. Now, if you think of like downtown New York, Manhattan, you're probably going to have some difficulty doing that. Now, do fix and flips happen there? Absolutely, but they're really expensive, high end, and not the kind of stuff that I think you should be investing in. So if that's the case, where are you gonna go? Well, you can go to upstate New York, about an hour away, maybe a little longer, and you can find properties that are in those areas. So what you've got to do is expand your search to something. I prefer 30 minutes, but an hour drive I don't think is unrealistic for you to be able to do investing. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to be at the property every single day. It's great if you can be. If you're not, you need to find a great contractor, but you need to be there at least once a week. So the first thing I would recommend you do is really take a deep dive to the area that you live in to say, why isn't this possible? Most of the time when I hear this, it's because you're having a hard time finding properties. And the reason you're having a hard time finding properties is you're trying to buy properties off the multiple listing service. The multiple listing service is basically the biggest advertisement on the freeway that anyone could possibly see, and everybody is flocking towards that. Not just you, but all the real estate agents as well that have access to the multiple listing. They get notified the second that it comes on the market and can put an offer together before you've even realized that property is there. So how do you go against this? Well, you've got to go after off-market properties that are not listed on the multiple listing service, and that is how you're going to be going after properties that are going to have good profit margins. What I find most of the time is people are trying to chase MLS properties and they're not giving it enough time, they're not making enough offers, they're not using MLS Sniper like we've recommended, and they're not going after off-market properties. Now, if you're going after off-market properties, if you're using the MLS Sniper and you're having problems finding properties still, then the next thing you have to look at is, well, what does my area look like? Is there too much crime? Is there problems in this area? Well, what other zip codes can I go into? I can tell you a big city, it's not the same everywhere. It's very different based upon zip codes. It's very different based upon areas. And so we need to be looking for zip codes in areas that make sense and zip codes in areas that plain do not make sense. And that could be because of price. It could be because of crime in the area. It could be because there just isn't a lot of demand. So one of the things I recommend for people to do is research. Where are the most fix and flips happening in your area? Now with data, you can do that. I recommend using Investor's Edge for this. And on Investor's Edge, you can check out and say, hey, where are the most fix and flips happening and how many fix and flips happen by zip code in this area? Well, once I see that, then I can have a really good idea of how many are actually occurring rather than just assuming fix and flips aren't possible in that area. The next thing that I can do then is look at crime. I can look at average prices. I can look at time on market and then make a determination as to the areas I should actually be going after. Now, if that area is not in your immediate area, I'm going to branch out to a 30-minute drive around me and I'm going to do the same type of research for all of those areas as well. Once I've done that research, if there's still nothing, then I'm going to move out to an hour radius. Now, once I've gone through this exercise with somebody, we typically always find an area and we find a great area and we start going after off-market properties. That's usually what I find. So number one, if you're saying it doesn't work in my area, it's probably because you haven't gone through these steps. Now, the other thing you can do is you can do remote flipping virtually, or even wholesaling virtually, okay? There are some pros and cons to this, but during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people that were customers of ours that were flipping in other areas and making profit. We have been doing virtual walkthroughs weekly with our contractors, which is something you could be doing as well. Now, virtual flipping for fix and flips is more difficult. I am not gonna sugarcoat this for you. It is more difficult and you've got to be very careful. You've got to make sure you've got a great contractor that does add a degree of difficulty, but it's absolutely possible. So I think the first thing is check out your area and see where the fix and flips are happening so you know what the data actually shows. Check out for the crime and other things that might prevent things that are happening in that specific zip code. Branch out to 30 minutes away, branch out to an hour away, and if you still can't do that, then we need to branch out further and start doing remote flipping in other areas and setting up a team and setting up a system that can help you have success with this. If you'd like to know how I repeatedly find motivated sellers for fix and flips, the first step is to get into real estate investing. If you can't find sellers, you're really simply not an investor. And I will show you how to target the right properties with the right owners over and over again. Check out this video. You're going to love it and make it a very profitable day.